there's timelines that were supposed to be more apocalyptic timelines that were originally slated to happening that are no longer happening. And so
Okay.
these timelines are merging into our current timeline, which is I would say, the higher dimensional timeline. So we're getting aligned with a higher dimensional timeline right now, but that is actually creating this influx of chaotic energy. So maybe a lot of your listeners and your followers are thinking, "Gosh, I feel so tired. I don't know what's going on. I can't even. I have this brain fog, or I'm feeling all these ascension symptoms." So this is kind of exasperating all of that right now.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? It's Eric Taylor, BigEAstrology, back with another episode of my Knowledge is Love Astrology Podcast, episode 218, with my amazing returning guest, Galactic historian, ET connector, and, of course, the Akashic Records master teacher, Miss Debbie Solaris. Welcome back, my friend. How are you today?
Hi, thanks for having me back. I feel like you're like family now because I come over to
Yes,
your house, and you know my hubby now, so it's like almost like I need to come back every now and then, So
definitely. And you're more
yes.
than welcome. And we love when you come back, and my audience loves it. And today is your fourth visit, and the number four is connected to the planet Uranus. So I
Hmm.
figured today we could explore a little bit more of like the ET connections and more of the galactic and the alien stuff. And let's get a little weird and innovative and futuristic
Oh
with it.
yeah, no, we'll get funky. So
Well, so with all that's going on right now, as we're getting ready, for the summer solstice and Cancer
Mhm.
season and the heat waves, we're dealing with extreme weather and fires, and 2024 has been already a year of extreme revelation. And
Mhm.
I really wanted to ask you, what's going on with the Galactic Federation, and what have you been able to kind of download or even see in the Akashic with what's going on with our galaxy and how we're being viewed here on planet Earth?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say a lot of timelines are collapsing right now, where it's it's kind of like an influx of a lot of chaotic energy. So obviously, all this chaotic frequency is affecting our planet, which is why we're getting all of this extreme weather and all this weird stuff that's happening, even in the political spectrum, in some of our news channels. I mean, it's just been kind of a freak show, So yeah, it's been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is actually real, or this is really happening. And I think what's going on is that because so many of us right now are awakening, uh, to the fact that we are ascending. So we're going from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. There's timelines that were supposed to be more apocalyptic timelines that were originally slated to happening that are no longer happening. And so
Okay.
these timelines are merging into our current timeline, which is I would say, the higher dimensional timeline. So we're getting aligned with a higher dimensional timeline right now, but that is actually creating this influx of chaotic energy. So maybe a lot of your listeners and your followers are thinking, "Gosh, I feel so tired. I don't know what's going on. I can't even. I have this brain fog, or I'm feeling all these ascension symptoms." So this is kind of exasperating all of that right now, and it's not really, I would say, directly involved with ETs. It's more the frequencies But I
Is it
do
some
think,
of the blast, Debbie, from the X-class solar flares? Because we've been
yeah.
getting them consistently for the last 2 months, like at record
Oh
amounts,
yeah,
right?
no, it's been I would say more prevalent than usual, and I think it's going to be more prevalent in the coming year. That
Mm,
we're just going to see, and the Schumann resonance spikes and the
yeah.
solar flares and all the freaky energy. And you were mentioning Uranus, and I'm just curious what I guess astrological correlation does
So
Uranus play?
Uranus right now, it is the spiritual awakener, and it's at
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
25 degrees Taurus. It's the
Yeah.
modern ruler of Aquarius, and it goes into Gemini for 7 years around
Mm.
late April of
Holy
2026.
schmoly. Yeah.
And right after Saturn and Neptune conjunction in February of 2026 in the sign of
Yeah.
Aries.
Oh
So
wow.
that's
Yeah,
kind of like,
Gemini is a very chaotic it's kind of a dualistic sign, so I
oh,
could see where Uranus and Gemini would really be stirring a lot of stuff up. I mean, it's
oh,
gonna be,
it
yeah,
will, especially
yeah.
because if you remember, so Uranus and Gemini is connected with Pluto and Aquarius, bringing
Mhm.
up the American Revolution, and
Mhm.
Uranus and Gemini, I believe, was around for World War II and the Civil War. So there's a lot of patterns where a lot of astrologers are like, "Oh my gosh, World War III," and then the other day, what? Russia has their ships right there in Cuba, and people are
Yeah, I
like,
know. It's like I said, it's like all this crazy stuff that I mean, it seems like it's like some sort of blockbuster movie, but it's not. It's real life, and there's still the things that are going on in Israel with the Hamas and the Gaza Strip, and I mean
"So
it's just like
sad."
crazy kind of stuff, and I honestly think that a lot of this is been orchestrated to
Yes.
really awaken people. I mean, if
Yes.
you're not awake by now, it's like, I mean,
Well, I saw somebody said the other day, Debbie, and I wanted
yeah,
what your thoughts on this, right? Because they were talking about how we are already in the 5D and Gaia,
yeah,
Mother Earth has kind of already shifted. And that's why the veil is so thin. And
yeah,
someone was saying, if you haven't awakened yet, chances are you may not. Now, I don't tend to believe that. I do
yeah,
still hold, Saturn, Pisces, I hold compassion, empathy, and grace and mercy because I do think as Pluto retrogrades back into Capricorn from September 1st to November
mm,
19th, I do
mm-hmm,
think there will be the next 3 to 6 months a new level where new people do awaken. And
mm,
we're going to have to, hold some space because I think these are going to be the people who were like, my government, my daddy, Fox,
yeah,
and like really relying on the system. And it could be really devastating and shocking for them when they
mm-hmm.
kind of like wake up and be like, what? Like, that's not this isn't that. And you know what I mean? So,
No, yeah, no, I think I do see the awakening process. I do think it's going to continue to happen until next decade, but I think
okay.
after that, it's going to be okay if you missed a boat, it's probably. But I do think this is giving people opportunity to really awaken and into what's really going on this planet right now. And I don't know if you've noticed this. You were just telling me about an incident that you and your family had in your backyard where you saw
Yes.
extraterrestrial craft. That's
Yes.
another thing we're going to be seeing more because of these veils that are thinning between dimensions. More and more people are starting to see craft in the air or in the sky, and
You're
uh
right.
yeah,
And mainly at night. But what's so fascinating, I can remember last summer with my boys being in the pool, and we actually saw one during the day. And so
yeah,
that was kind of fascinating as well. And I got to tell you, as a native New Yorker,
mm-hmm.
in New York, people don't ever like look up because you got all the buildings. So I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
how much, especially in the city, maybe upstate
yeah.
New York where it's, more spacious. But I don't think certain cities people even catch a glimpse of anything like this. So it could seem really bizarre, weird, or foreign to them. But I got to tell you, in Arizona, like I've seen now at least three or four, and I don't think any of this is Project Bluebeam. Now, I do
No, I think
know,
it's real. I
yeah,
think
it
it's
is real,
real.
and I do
Yeah.
know that they're getting wilder with the harp and the weathers and prayers for all the people in Florida with all this rain and Dubai and the fires in California. But I want to ask you, do you sense that there's almost like maybe the board game chess or something, Risk, where there's a fight for the stargates and the powers? I even think about bricks, and could there be where, yes, I know they're kind of all in cahoots, but
Hmm.
could there start to be breaks in their I guess in the United Nations and the systems where certain countries are maybe starting to want to do things a little differently than what was initiated or planned? What are your thoughts on that? Because even with the veil being so thin, remember they came up with what, maybe just a few months ago, and I know this may have made you laugh and made me crack up. This
Mm.
new, they announced this new, what, disease or symptoms, like, oh, people are starting to see demon faces on people. It's like a new condition.
Oh, geez. I know.
Get
It's
out of
just like,
here with that
I
silly.
know. It's just like, yeah, they'll do anything to try to keep people in fear because these entities or these beings, the powers to be, they feed off that fear energy.
Yes,
So, and it gets ridiculous. I mean, it's like every time they come up with something new, it's just like, come on now. It's like, I mean, you got to be a kindergartner or younger to not see through it, But to answer your question about these countries, uh, Terry, my husband, follows this more than I do,
okay.
but I do understand that there are quite a few countries where their monetary system and also their governments are being totally revamped. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a lot of the money now is going to be gold or silver backed. It's not going to be this fiat, money system anymore. And this is called the BRICS, I think,
yeah,
alliance.
yeah.
So a lot of these countries are starting to get on board, and a lot of them are the countries that we used to think of as not being
Our
really good country.
friends.
Yeah, our friends, or but there's a reason why the American government didn't like these countries because they didn't want to be part of the, Federal Reserve and, that whole elitist system. They wanted
Right.
to do their own thing. This includes quite a few countries in South America and in the Middle East. And, a lot of these countries just wanted their own system, and they wanted a more fair and equitable system, one where everybody gets to share in this monetary system. And this brings in, Jazara and Nasara. I'm so sure you've talked about it on your channel before, but for people that don't know what that is a complete monetary reset system. It's been put in place, I would say, for at least quite a few decades. No, not even decades, more like centuries,
Mm,
by Saint Germain and by other ascended masters who had put this in place quite a long time ago,
okay.
so that debts can be forgiven. So everybody's debts will be forgiven. We will do away with the IRS. Mortgages will be forgiven. I mean, it's pretty massive. I mean, and everybody will get a certain allotment of money to do with it what they will. And for those that want to do uh, charitable things with their money, they will get an even bigger allotment. So if they're planning to
Really?
do some, yeah. So
Now,
this
but
is
is
also
this
going to be placed in.
is
Yeah, this is
no? I'm
part of the
just
whole
curious
BRICS thing too.
when you
Yeah.
talk about this. Is this more from the galactic? Because I can't see the American government being a support of this because I
No,
see
they're not support. They're probably
okay,
the
because
last
BlackRock and
government that's going to
Vanguard,
be of
they're
support of
trying to
this.
destroy everything.
Yeah,
BlackRock
exactly.
and
Yeah,
Vanguard and
exactly. Yeah.
ugh,
And I would say a lot of the first world countries like the UK, the powers that, the countries that were in power for, the UK, Australia, Canada, US, they're probably going to be the last ones on board with this, but there's a lot of countries that are on board with it,
wow,
and it's going to create this massive monetary reevaluation where the American dollar is no longer going to be, the the most powerful currency out there, so this is going to level the playing field for a lot of people across the world, and it's going to bring prosperity to these countries. And I'm just excited for this because this is what needs to happen. This needs to happen. Otherwise, things are never going to change, so
Well,
I do expect big things to happen. My hubby purchased a bunch of dinar from Iraq, and what was the other one? I think it was called a dong from Vietnam. So these are
oh
supposed
wow.
to be reevaluated to where it's either going to be equal amount, like one dong will be equal to $1, or maybe even more than that. And I
Wow.
don't want to say that, oh, you need to run out and purchase a bunch of this money, this foreign money, but you do want to maybe check into it and do your own research,
Yes,
so yeah.
because, and you're so right, and thank you for saying that, because I do think being financially diversified right now is the
Yeah.
safest way to go. I tell people, don't just rely on the big banks, and you should have some
No, they're going to
cash.
go down. Some of
Yes,
them
you
are,
should
yeah,
have
they're going to.
cash, gold, silver. You're right. Like, especially with, if you have Russia, China, India, and Brazil, and and South Africa involved in BRICS, and then other countries jumping on, we could have a real, but that just makes you, worried. And I don't want to say worried, because I'm so anti-fear. To me, I stay in that fifth dimensional timeline, and I implore my audience always, Debbie, spiritual discipline, because when you hold the higher frequency, you are vibrating but choosing a more positive timeline, so that the fear is not even coming on your doorstep. The
Yeah.
violence, the negativity, it's not even coming in your realm. You won't, the way that we are spiritually now, you can just keep that stuff away from you, but you got to put in the work,
Oh
right?
yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. And you don't want to just be blindsided by, some massive global event either, so you want to, keep your ducks in a row and, prepare for anything that might occur. But my understanding is once Jasara Nasara gets implemented, everyone will get an allotment of money. And I don't know how much it is. I hear everything from $1 million each to 100,000 each. I don't know. It's going to be a significant amount of money, but this is going to at least help people to do what they want with their lives instead of just slaving away working for, some company or organization or some job that they don't really like.
Yeah.
They can finally pursue the kind of life they want to create for themselves. But yeah, there's a lot of changes that are going to be occurring in the next coming years. I kind of have doubts about this election that's coming up. I know we're looking at a big election, and I don't know what's going on with that. It's not more crazy stuff. It's
They
just
haven't
like,
even had a debate yet. Isn't that
I
weird?
know. I know you'd think by now they would do. It kind of makes me wonder if it's really going to happen. It's just like, my hubby thinks it will still happen. I just don't know. It doesn't seem like,
I'm sensing something strange too, especially
yeah.
with, things looming for Trump maybe in prison. But I still tend to think it's not even Biden or Trump. I feel like it's a Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama, that they're going to kind of infiltrate something else and try to do something different. So, I mean, either way, you have to get your popcorn ready, because with Pluto retrograde and Capricorn in the 29th degree, we may not even have the same country come election day, November 5th, let alone, you know what I mean, an election. We could be in a whole new vibration and frequency. And that kind of leads me to what I want to ask you next, because I do remember when we went to war and, took out Saddam Hussein in Iraq. And um, this is kind of random, but it does connect to the galactic and to the aliens, because the main thing was, obviously there were no weapons of mass destruction. We wanted
Yeah.
ancient artifacts and oil. But I heard, and I wonder if you've sensed anything or seen any of this in the galactic or in the Akashic, with that Saddam and Iraq, which is, ancient Babylon, that they had the Nephilim.
Mm-hmm.
the remains. And so what's going on, I think the battle of artifacts and the stargates in terms of Israel, America, England, like Iraq, Russia, do you think that that was something that could have been the case in terms of the Nephilim? And then where are we at in terms of who's not just viewing us here, but who's coming to, make sure that we stay away from nuclear war and in peace?
Well, I do think that the Galactic Federation, even though they can't directly get involved with, the going ons on planet Earth, they are trying to assist us as much as possible. And there's always been a spiritual war in this planet, so there's always been this spiritual war between the the Anunnaki or the Nephilim or whatever, label you want to put on these beings, that
Right.
are currently the powers to be that want to be continuing to stay in power. And for those that are part of their star family that want to see Earth reach its highest potential and become part of the greater galactic family and part of the Galactic Federation. Earth is not at that point yet,
Right.
but they do try to assist us behind the scenes. So my understanding, this was something that just happened not a whole lot of years ago, but my understanding is a lot of the DUMBs, either the underground bases and the underground areas where they did the human trafficking and things like that.
Yeah.
A lot of those got taken out by members of the Galactic Federation, particularly the Procyon, who are part of the system of Procyon, which is in
Oh.
Canis Minor, and the Syrians, who are part of the system of Canis Major. So
Hmm.
these two star groups, they're both highly technical. They know what they're doing, and they went underground and they took out these underground reptilian bases. And
Really?
my understanding, it was 13 of them that got taken out. This is all throughout the planet.
Wow.
And the Galactic Federation has dismantled some of the nuclear weaponry that's been, some countries have been hanging on to. They dismantled some of our weaponry, even, with the United States, such as our battleships and things like that. And
Hmm.
they've actually mitigated some of the repercussions that might have happened through some of the chemtrails and other things that are going on the planet. And including, I think they might even be trying to mitigate some of the damage that was done by the COVID vaccines, so
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
so they're
That's
trying to help us behind the scenes, but it's not going to be obvious, so it's not like, everybody's going to know, like, oh yeah, so and so did this.
right.
And I think it's because they don't want to alarm people, they don't want there to be this mass hysteria. Aliens are getting kind of involved with some of this background
Well,
stuff,
when you
but
say this, Debbie, let me ask you this. When you say this, though, are they doing it themselves or are they doing it through physical human beings where their spirit is in them? Or do they morph or is it actually like alien beings that are kind of doing the hands-on work? Like,
I would
what's your
say it's
understanding? What
probably
do
a
you?
combination of things.
Okay.
So I do think there's actual alien beings that walk among us, and they're
Yes.
probably doing this stuff behind the scenes. But then at the same time, there's probably star seeds and other, humans that are assisting them, either willingly or unwittingly. But and it's not like they inhabit our bodies and take over. It's more like this is happening interdimensionally, like during dream time for some people.
Mm,
Like some people will have astral travels and they'll remember, like, oh gosh, I was in this underground thing and we were rescuing a bunch of kids, and so. And I do think that kind of stuff happens a lot. It's just
wow.
they're in their astral bodies doing that. So
That makes
I think it's
sense.
a combination of factors that are going on.
Wow. That's so powerful and it makes sense. But then I think about looking at the kind of and I've heard you mention this before, that
Mhm.
not all reptilians are bad. There's some good ones, but in terms of the ones that have infiltrated our government, with the frequencies and us being on 5D, the veil is so thin that they're not able to hold their kind of like,
Their shape-shifting abilities.
yeah, right. And
Yeah.
is that something that we can see with
Mhm.
reptilians and grays?
Oh,
And
yeah. Oh,
is our
yeah.
government kind of infiltrated by both? That's
Oh
what I get
yeah, no,
confused about.
yeah,
Okay.
no, I've seen that quite. I just watching TV, when my husband was still watching mainstream TV. He doesn't so much anymore,
The
but
guy from Pfizer, his neck, I saw that. Like that was
yeah, it's like they can't hold their shape-shifting abilities. So I think more and more people are seeing through it and are seeing, oh my gosh, that person just had an insectoid face or a reptilian face,
right. Or
and
the
this
eyes.
and the eyes shift and I've seen it even on TV, just with some of these politicians. I'll say to my husband, "Oh yeah, that's a reptilian. That's not a human," because I just see it through the veil.
I was
But
going to say, do you sort of sense that spiritually, or is it something that you can just see with your, not your third eye, but with your regular two eyes that you can sense? Is it a little
I
bit
would
of
say
both?
it's probably through the regular and the third eye.
Okay.
So you do get the information through your regular eyes, but then the third eye interprets that information, and that's why I'm always teaching, my folks, my followers. You need to strengthen your third eye. You
Yes.
need to really strengthen those abilities. And it's the third eye has gotten so calcified through all this heavy programming, conditioning,
The
all the
fluoride in the
chemicals, the
water.
fluoride, the GMOs and the food and the chemtrails. So, you got to really work at strengthening you and decalcifying your third eye, and then you'll be able to see through the veil. You'll be able to see these things.
Can you
And
share some tips for the audience in terms of just some practical everyday things that people can do to
oh,
help them
absolutely.
decalcify and help them with their third eye?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is a real simple one that anybody can do, but what you want to do is close your eyes and do a 4 count breathing in. So you're breathing in for 4 counts. So you're doing this inhale, okay? Breathing in for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, and then exhaling for 4 counts. And you want to keep doing this until you start feeling something. You start feeling a vibration, or you start seeing colors in your third eye. And I've done this with my students, and a lot of them were able to do this. Even the ones that claim that, oh, I don't have any abilities, I don't know what I'm doing. They'll start seeing colors, and they'll start
Yeah.
seeing their third eye starting to get decalcified. Certain foods and yoga poses can also help. So these are also little practical tips. So you want to do that 4 count, like four count in, 4 count hold, 4 count out, for a few minutes. So you don't just want to do it once or twice. You want to do it for a few minutes until you start feeling a buzzing, or
Would it be multiple times a day or just
yeah, as many times
good?
as you think you need it.
And do these help a little bit as well?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean,
Okay.
if there's a crystal that you really feel connected with and you want to hold it in your hands, I encourage that. I would say the higher vibrational crystal. So don't use like a grounding crystal like
Right.
smoky quartz or tourmaline or something, that's more grounding. You want to use like what you have, which it looks like an amethyst
Yes,
or
amethyst. Yeah.
yeah. So amethyst is high vibrational. Oralite 23 is high vibrational.
Mm.
Selenite, Nirvana quartz, if you can find it. It's hard
Oh,
to find,
yeah.
but
I don't know that one.
yeah, that one is really pretty cool. Moldavite, if you can handle that high frequency, because
Yeah, the
Moldavite,
moldavite. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
yeah, that one's really high frequency. So there's, various high frequency crystals you can use that, will definitely help, open your third eye. The other thing, you might want to concentrate on eating blue and purple foods, because those open up your higher chakras. So that would be
Mm.
like blueberries, blackberries, beets, eggplant, things that are purple or blue in color. I eat a lot of blueberries, so
Yes.
I'm a blueberry lover. I can eat blueberries and blackberries and raspberries all
They're
day long. But
they're so good for you.
yeah, they're
And
so good and they got so much fiber and they're just and they also help your third eye. So
what
if you
about
can just
the high vibrational clothing, wool, linen, and organic cotton? Because
that
I
can
think
help,
people
yeah.
forget that some of this like synthetic stuff, it's so low vibrational that and it's on your skin, and our skin absorbs anything that touches it within 26 seconds to our bloodstream. So
Yeah.
should we also
I know some personal friends of mine that only wear organic cotton. They won't wear anything else.
yeah, I don't blame them.
Yeah, and I was going to mention yoga poses. So any pose like downward facing dog
Oh,
or the warrior poses or even some of the inversion poses will help
mm,
to clear your third eye. So if you can incorporate all that,
yeah.
including that little breathing exercise, you're going to start seeing some changes, and then maybe you'll start seeing the UFOs and the shapeshifters, and um,
Well, it's
so these
funny
are
that
just some helpful tips. Yeah.
it's so thank you. And those tips are so important. And you guys try it at home because what Debbie shared, it's very practical and very doable. So it's not something that's like,
So woo
oh,
woo and
spiritual
yeah,
woohoo. It's
yeah.
very like, hey, I can breathe, I can stretch, I can eat better, I can wear better clothing. Like these are things that, we should all try to implement. And along that same vein, Debbie, do you find that, and I'm going to get a little controversial. This is
Okay,
your fourth
okay,
time.
okay.
Your fourth time here.
Yeah,
I
no,
have
that's
to
good.
do the
That's good. I can
Uranus
handle
thing.
it. I can handle
Do
it.
you
Yep.
feel, and this doesn't matter, whether you are European, Asian, African, Hispanic descent, whatever. Do you find that when we are eating and ingesting death, like in terms of like the meat,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that there's a big movement, with the whole carnivore movement.
Mm-hmm.
Does that lower our frequency and vibration?
It does actually, and just recently I decided to go plant-based as possible. So I did a cleanse where I was because I was starting to feel a little funky. I mean, I'm human.
Yeah.
I go through periods where I feel funky or I start putting on some weight or something, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do this. So I did a 5-day cleanse where it was completely vegan, and even now, ever since then I've been doing just predominantly a vegan diet as much as possible, and I do notice the difference in my vibration that things feel lighter, easier. I'm tapping into the records easier
Mm.
because this not only clears your sixth chakra and your seventh chakra, it also clears your eighth and your ninth chakra. So these are the
Ah,
chakras that are in your auric field.
yes. About yeah. That's yeah.
Yeah, above your seventh, crown chakra, there's two other chakras that are part of your auric field that can also get blocked.
Mm.
So the eighth chakra is 2 inches above the crown chakra, and that one's called the karmic chakra, and
Okay.
it contains our connection with the Akashic records. So, for a lot of folks that want to connect with the Akashic records, they do want to clear that particular chakra. And then the one above that is called the soul chakra, and that connects us to our higher self and our higher guidance. So, that one also will can block your access to higher dimensional energies and information if that's not cleared. So for that one in particular, the ninth chakra, the vegan diet does help a lot. That does. I've had my clients and my friends do it, and they
Right.
said, "Oh wow, I've been able to connect with my guides now, or I can connect with."
Yeah.
This high, I can start channeling or start bringing in information that I've never been able to do before. And what this is called actually is the high vibrational diet.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And more
So,
fruit, right? Anything that's more solar
yeah, that's
food. Yeah,
more, yeah,
the fruit's
exactly.
very important.
And I do think there's, if you might want to just do a search online if you're interested on high vibrational diet,
Okay.
but basically the whole concept, and the Arcturians teach this too. So I'm, considered to be an Arcturian starseed. That's my star family. But
Okay.
the Arcturians say that the denser and heavier the food, the lower vibrational it is. So meat is very dense and heavy.
Yeah.
So if you're eating fish, that's not quite as dense and heavy. It's still a little dense, but not as much. So,
Right.
so if you have to eat some meat, I would say maybe go to fish rather
But
than a steak. But
and not the bottom feeder fish. Don't go with the
no,
shrimp
yeah,
and
no, the
lobster.
yeah.
They are the ones that are cleaning up the ocean, so we get the oxygen from the ocean. So we shouldn't be eating like
Yeah, so there's something, there's a reason why I think the Bible had so many dietary restrictions, because they were very conscious of which foods were higher vibrational and which weren't. And
yeah,
so, and I'm not telling people, oh, you absolutely have to be vegan or you have to be raw or, or be
yeah.
paleo or whatever. I'm just saying you got to do your own research, and whatever aligns with you, that's what you should do. And regardless of what diet you eat, if you're on the spiritual path, you are going to ascend, so it's not going to
Right,
keep
right.
you from ascending. But if you do want to develop those intuitive and those, third eye abilities, that might be just a consideration. Uh,
And that's great insight and great information for the
yeah,
audience. So thank you for sharing that because
yeah.
that can be helpful. And trust me, Debbie and I are not judging you. We've had plenty of meat in our lives ourselves. So
No,
I,
I'm
I tell
yeah, I'm a
people,
type O blood type. So according to, I guess, the type O diet, I should be eating lots of meat, and I don't, because I've just kind of evolved past that. But
well, but also you know what it is. You
yeah,
notice how you feel.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
you're right. I feel dense and heavy. It just and there's some times where I feel like a desire or a craving for it, like I want something more dense. And
yeah.
then every time, Debbie, without fail, my wife and I, every time I'll have like a steak or a hamburger and it tastes good for the moment. And then I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I just feel
And then I
heavy
go like a whole
afterwards.
nother 6, 7 months,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah,
literally may have meat twice a year. Now,
yeah,
fish I do still eat, but
yeah,
I tend to only eat like the salmon and some of the fish like that.
yeah.
I've never been a shrimp, lobster, type person, things like that. But I want to go, more into the galactic and the Akashic, but really I want to understand not only your ET contact, but wow, just as I said that, I got the ringing in my ear. So this is
Oh,
going to be
oh.
good. So not only your ET contact, which I believe you've had 2 or 3, I want you to share
Mhm,
that with the audience, but what did you actually physically and spiritually feel and experience in the moment, but
mhm.
then afterwards?
Oh, good. Yeah, that's a really good segue. And I kind of want to also share afterwards, like,
Yeah,
because we're talking about astrology, like how
yeah.
astrology plays into all of this.
Okay.
But to answer your question first, I do. So I was an ordinary unawakened human, so I was about as unawakened as they come, for almost 50 years. I mean, it's kind of shocking, but yeah, I'm kind of a latecomer to this whole spiritual movement,
That's
but
all right.
yeah, but I think my consciousness started expanding a little bit when I started dating my now husband, Terry, because he was always into the paranormal and the ETs and all that. And so I was reading, some of his magazines and articles about, he used to get this magazine called UFO magazine, which is all about UFOs. And
Mm,
I was like, what the heck is my boo reading? It's like, what is this crazy stuff? And I started reading it too, and I was like, wow, I guess maybe, I mean, I was still skeptical, but I was just like,
right,
okay,
right.
maybe there's something to this. But I never imagined and ever that I would ever have an ET contact experience. I would be like the last person I would think would ever have that kind of experience. And just to give people some context, I was ex-military, so I was in the military for 6 years. I was in the U.S. Navy. I worked as a hospital corpsman slash preventive medicine tech, and then I spent many years working for various governmental agencies in environmental health and public health and safety. So I've been, entrenched in the government world for a lot of years, and I just had no reason, and just even my upbringing, my parents were Catholic, and so I had no reason to really.
Wait. Has the government now have since you were a part? I want to be honest and just
Yeah.
ask. 'Cause this is deep. Like, have they seen some of your work and reached out to you at all?
No, but what did happen, okay, so I'll tell you this.
Okay.
I'll get more into the detail of my ET contact experience, but actually, after I had my first ET contact experience, there were black unmarked SUVs following my car for months.
Wow.
And one time, I kid you not, I went out into my backyard at my house. This was not this house, but the
Yeah.
house we used to live in. And there was three black helicopters hovering over my backyard. I mean, so down close that I know they were specifically hovering over my backyard for a reason.
Wow.
And so I know they were tracking me, but they know when we have contact. They do know that.
Okay, they do know that.
They do know when somebody has contact.
But
And
how? But that's what's so
I
fascinating.
know, I
How?
know. I think they have access to vibrational capabilities just like we do, So maybe they're using technology or but to get back to my extraterrestrial contact story, this was in May 2012. I was very worried about the planet, so I sent out this prayer to the universe. So I
Mm,
just had the sleepless night. I was praying to God, the universe, whatever,
yeah.
that, angels, that we need help on planet Earth. Planet Earth is in a bad place. It's just not things are not good here, so it's not good. It's going to shit in the handbasket. Okay, so uh,
And that was
uh,
2012. Imagine what you would pray now.
yeah, no, I mean it was just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So I sent this prayer out, and I even included the Galactic brothers and sisters. And I don't even know why or how I came up with that term, but I just said, Galactic brothers and sisters. You need to hear this too. And then, I went, the next day things were back to normal. I went back to work as normal, so everything was pretty quiet, for 2 weeks. And then one night I went to sleep. This was 2 weeks after I sent out this prayer, and I forgot all about the prayer,
Right, right.
but I went to sleep, and when I came to consciousness, I was in a different reality.
Mm,
And I knew it wasn't a dream because even lucid dreams have this kind of hazy, I don't know, it has this kind of hazy quality to it. And this
right,
was
right.
very real. It was when you're in the higher dimensions, things are ultra real. It's like the details are really sharp, colors are brilliant, you see
Yeah,
auras around everything. It was real. It was just like
I
what I
know.
call a hyper reality. And so I was looking around, I was like, gosh, it looks like I'm in some sort of a spacecraft or a spaceship and but it wasn't metallic. It wasn't like the spaceships like you see on Star Wars or Star
Right.
Trek, where everything looked like it was mechanical and like people made it. This was all comprised of light and plasma and this kind of very fluid material that it had a structure to it, but it was very fluid and organic. And I was
Wow.
like, wow, this was like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and never
Wow.
seen technology like that. And so I was just trying to take everything in, and I noticed that the ship had a sentience of its own
Mm,
because it was directing me towards a space. And I was just like,
really?
okay, I'm falling around. It was like lights or something. It was like shining lights, or it was really kind of cool. But I definitely got the message like, oh, I'm supposed to go this way. And
Right, right.
I ended up in a large room that I later found out was called the orientation room.
Hmm.
And it was kind of like a conference room, but even beyond a conference room, it was more like they had this big holographic sphere, and there was these alien beings waiting for me in this room. And I knew they were alien. I knew they weren't from Earth. I mean, just looking at them, you
Right.
could tell.
Now, were they
They,
different colors and shapes, or?
yeah, they were. At first glance, you would think, oh, they kind of look like gray aliens, but they weren't gray aliens. Yeah, they were. They had larger heads and larger eyes, but their eyes weren't humongous. They were a little bit. They were still larger than human eyes, but they had irises and pupils, and they were kind of a bluish green color, but I really couldn't tell at first because their auras were super bright. I mean, it's like I
Mm,
couldn't even directly look at them. I had to kind of take glances at them. And then I was able to see what they kind of look like. But and they were I got the feeling they were pulling down their vibration to interact with me. But normally they would be a lot taller or a lot bigger, but they were making themselves smaller so that I wouldn't be frightened,
okay,
interacting with them.
that's
Because I'm a
fascinating.
small person. I'm
Right,
only 5 foot,
right, right,
so
right.
yeah, so I was thinking about questions to ask them, and I was wondering, do they even understand English? Because I don't know what language they speak. And as I was asking the questions in my head, even before I would finish the question, they were answering my questions telepathically. So we were communicating with each other telepathically. And these beings were answering all my questions, and I asked him, obviously, where am I? What is this? Who are you? Why am I here? And they told me that they were Arcturians from Arcturus, which is a star in the Bodas constellation. And while they were explaining this to me, the holographic sphere that I was in was showing me a star map of where Bodas is located in the galaxy.
What?
Yeah, yeah, it was like I was there. It was so cool. And
Oh my
like I
God.
said, it was technology I've never seen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so they were telling me that the reason why I was there was because they heard my prayer. And I was like, really? You heard my prayer? Like nobody ever hears my prayers. And
That's insane. Like,
that,
oh
I
my
mean, it's
God.
like that's how tuned in they are to us. And then I I asked them, why me? I'm nobody special. I'm just a health inspector for El Paso County Health Department. And they were telling me that, yeah, no, you're not just a health inspector. You're actually one of us. You have chosen to be incarnated on planet Earth. You're part of our star family, but you had forgotten because of all the programming and the density on planet Earth. And I was like, oh
Wow.
my gosh, really? And so this like blew my mind, because I was like, I always thought I was just a, blah, 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 human, dumb human,
Uh,
but
we're so
but
much more. It's
we were so much more than that. And all of us, not just me, but all of us.
yeah.
But they told me that that they felt like since I said that prayer that I was ready to understand the truth of what was really happening on planet Earth. And
Just from one prayer,
one prayer,
they
yeah,
knew or
and
felt that you were ready.
they felt that I was ready. And because I was asking for help for planet Earth, I wasn't even praying for myself. I was praying for the animals, for the people on planet Earth. I wanted to see
Oh,
suffering be, eliminated. Because
like
so
a
many
true
people.
Taurus moon, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I am a Taurus moon. I'm a Leo sun, but
Yeah.
sometimes the Taurus takes over. I love
Oh,
plants and I love to bake cookies, like we talked about one time.
in
So,
nature, yeah.
in nature, yeah.
That's
So
so deep.
and I was an environmental health specialist for quite a few years, but yeah, they were answering all my questions about politics, about religion, and about things that were going on the planet. They said that everything in the 3D is an artificial construct, it's not real. And I said, well, it seems really real. Like when you're in the 3D, you can touch things, you could feel things, and they said
Now,
no.
was that kind of, did you feel at the time, and maybe you didn't think of this at the time, but
Yeah.
was that kind of like them letting you know that we are in this like Saturnian bubble matrix, the matrix system?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. That's what they called it, was the matrix, and they called it like an artificial matrix construct. And they said that everything in this construct is an illusion, and we chose to be a part of it in order to help Earth ascend. But we had to deconstruct the matrix from the inside out. So it wasn't like in the
Wow.
past where they would send an ascended master to wake the people up, or like Jesus or Buddha. Now
Wow.
they're sending a lot of us to infiltrate the system from inside. So
Mm.
um, and so a lot of us right now, that are on the spiritual path, we feel this calling to help make the planet better, either through sharing information or expanding consciousness or healing people, or healing the environment, or meditating. I mean, there's various lots, maybe working with the earth grids. So there's a lot of us that are doing this,
Yep.
and we're and we're all aligning with our missions right now. And for you and me, I think, our mission is to expand consciousness. It's to help reconnect people with what's really real.
Yeah.
It seems ludicrous that for many, many years and decades and centuries, astrology, for instance, was poo-pooed. Like, oh, this is a fake science, or it's
Yeah.
fake, and nobody, you're evil if you get involved with it. And it was actually a tool or modality that was used to help empower, help people align with the planetary frequencies and the star frequencies. And
Yeah.
and it's so great now that so many of us are realigning with that modality. And that the Akashic records are like that. Like, nobody had access to the records until I think Edgar Casey was tapping into them. This was
Mm.
back in the turn of the century, last century.
Right, right, right.
But he was like the forefather of the Akashic records, because he was one of the only few people that was able to tap into it, during his time.
Wow.
And then more and more people started, but even Edgar Casey was only able to access Atlantean records or Lemurian records.
Oh, okay.
So he wasn't really tapping into the galactic records, at least not in its entirety. I think maybe he was able to get information on Arcturians and star races, but because he knew who they were. But then, it was like, people were starting to read the Akashic records, but they were only able to access the Earth records. And
Mm.
then just a few decades ago, people started accessing the galactic records. And so now we're at the
But how
consciousness.
did that shift? Was that because the Galactic Federation allowed it, or like, give me the answer, because that I'm trying to
I think it
comprehend that.
had more to do with where people's consciousness were at.
Ah, okay.
So,
Yeah.
so now, there's this mass consciousness acceptance of UFOs and aliens and the beings from other star systems and other realities. So it would make sense that now, okay, now we have access to these higher level records, whereas before, when the consciousness just wasn't there, people wouldn't have been able to comprehend that information.
Right.
Um, so a lot of what I work with is the Galactic Akashic records.
Yeah.
So probably I think that's changing now because I'm training more and more people to do my method.
Right, right.
But for a while, I was one of the only few people that was able to, read people's past lives from other star systems. So
Uh,
yeah, so a lot of folks that are here on the planet right now, I wouldn't say 100%. I would never say 100%
right.
of anything, but
Right, right.
a lot of people that are here now, that are incarnated during this timeline, are not originally from Earth. They are star seeds. And what
Yeah.
a star seed is a person that is having a human incarnation and a human existence in this lifetime, but their soul originated from another reality or another star system or another planet or another galaxy or universe or something,
Right, right.
so we're seeing more star seeds on the planet now than we had for many thousands and thousands of years. And so now people are at the consciousness where they're starting to feel like, gosh, I don't feel like I'm from here. I feel like I've existed long before Earth, and I had
I used
lives
to
in.
always say that when I was younger, that I
Yeah, I
was like
know. You
some
told
sort of
me that. Yeah.
alien, and I was just like, and it's so funny because when you did my reading, and
Yeah.
you had even mentioned with my parents, in
Yeah.
terms of choosing them because of
Yeah.
their unique DNA, it
Yeah.
and it's so funny. I didn't share this with you before, but I remembered it later on. I used to do when I was, definitely way more in the Matrix back then, but definitely I used to do sketch comedy characters, and I did
Mm.
acting, and did some House of Bugging, Saturday Night Live, different things, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that I remembered, I wrote this whole sketch, but it was me talking about me being alien, and I'd be like, "Look at my jaw; it's different. My parents are bigger and stronger." And the funny thing about it is that I always felt so different and unique. Even I can remember as a child, even being in friend groups, still noticing that like they're not necessarily like me.
Hmm.
And it wasn't like I was better, I was just different. Like, and I just noticed that
Yeah.
and always
Yeah.
remembered that. And now it's like, whoa, because you're right. You feel that, but you feel this, it's almost like this spiritual obligation.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like I always felt as a kid I was on a mission, and I didn't
Yes,
even know what that word was. I was just like, what? Like somehow I knew the word mission, but I didn't know what that meant, or
yes, that's
but I
exactly
knew.
what it is. A
Yeah, it's
mission.
like
That's what it is.
that you're there for some purpose, but it takes you like half a lifetime to try to figure out what that purpose is.
Um,
But
but
no, thank
we
goodness
found it,
for.
my friend, and that's what's so great.
No, I'm definitely aligned with my purpose now, but it took so many freaking years to get there because I think part of it is because I was born in the 60s and that was heavy programming and heavy
Oof,
conformity, in our reality during those times.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'm kind of tail end of, I guess, what they call the first wave or the boomers or whatever you want to call that. But I actually don't consider myself to be a typical boomer because I'm not. I'm kind of
right.
more Gen X
More
maybe,
Gen
but
X, yeah, because I'm
yeah,
Gen X.
but
Yeah, we're Gen X. We're rebels, like
oh yeah, totally, totally.
complete rebels. But I've found that I think of some of my amazing dear friends. They are still so connected and almost in love with the programming, the cognitive dissonance, and the matrix.
Oh, I
And that,
know, it's
and it
sad.
hurts my heart because for me, like, I'm like, I almost want to say, like, you know me. Like, I wouldn't be talking about this stuff and doing this stuff if it wasn't real.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
Eric, like, you know what I mean? It's me, like,
Yeah, it's like they're so deep in their cognitive dissonance that they can't even accept, truth from a friend, or from
yeah,
family members. It's
it's
just not. Like Terry and I, we always talk about, like, are we the only awakened people in our families? Because nobody else is aligned with this except for us. And it's like, how can
yeah,
that be? It just seems ludicrous. But fortunately, you and your wife and your kids, you guys are all beautiful star seeds, and you're all awakened. And
yeah.
it's just,
Thank you,
yeah, no, I just love your family. They're so
thank you.
adorable, and your adorable mother-in-law.
Yes,
Yeah, Lauren, I mean, she's adorable. And
yeah,
yes, she was one of my original Akashic clients
yes.
back in
No,
the
she
day.
talks about it all the time, and
Yeah,
so that's fascinating because after the ET connection and experience, and explain that afterwards, what gifts and skills, and is that when you kind of after that, like then the awakening was just full fledged?
it was full-fledged. I mean, I
Okay.
went I went to sleep as a sleep person and woke up as a really awakened person. Like I
Oh my
like
god.
like I like I knew that at the next morning, like, okay, my life is never going to be the same again.
Right,
I
right,
knew there
right.
was a massive shift,
Oh my God.
and the first, obviously the first person I told was my husband, but I remember telling him like I just don't feel the same. And then I started. What happened after that was my extrasensory perception expanded like 100-fold. Where I was reading auras on people, I was reading frequencies, I was interdimensionally traveling, I was seeing UFOs all the time. Speaking of
Wow.
UFOs, I
Yeah.
was seeing them all the time, and I was starting to get downloads of massive galactic information. Like I was just like, holy crap.
Now, would
What?
this be when you were meditating or just in general?
Just in general, sometimes, like sometimes I would just be sitting down, I would get this down dump, like this information dump
Wow.
on. A lot of times it would happen while I was meditating too, but it wasn't
Yeah.
like I was forcing it. It was just like
Yeah.
I would get this, this information dump, and I was like, I don't even know what this is. And so I started taking spiritual classes all
Okay.
throughout Colorado, the Front Range, Colorado area, which is Denver, Colorado Springs, and Boulder.
Right.
Just trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And then I did a whole crap load of of research. I did so much research. I was reading so many books, just trying to figure out, is this real? Is
Right.
this, am I making this stuff up? And then all of a sudden I knew like all this star information. Like I knew all these star systems. And it's like, I never taken astronomy in my life. I mean, I'm like, how do I know these star systems? I mean,
Right.
I knew what Zeta Reticuli was. I knew Polaris. I knew Orion systems. I was like, what the heck is this? And so I thought I was going crazy for a long time.
Oh
And
my
so,
gosh. That can be, I'm sure, pretty overwhelming, huh?
yeah, I would say it's very similar to going through a near-death experience. I know you had one of those or a few of those, but
Yeah.
it's very similar to where your reality completely changes and you're not the same person anymore. And it's not so much like a walk-in. You're still like, I mean, you're just like an awakened version of yourself,
Right, right.
or a more, I guess, enlightened version of yourself.
Yeah.
But
But you can't go back, and that's the thing. And I know
no.
since awakening out of coma, my spiritual gifts, I was already awakened, but just like you said, like the downloads and the gifts and the heightened abilities, it just goes and goes. And I still get amazed because I feel like it's still playing out for me.
Oh yeah, no, it is for me too. It's like I'm still getting downloads. I'm still, receiving new information. It's not as jarring as it first was because
Oh, right,
now
right.
now I'm used to the frequencies. So it's kind of like, okay, I've seen this before. I know what it is, but when you're first encountering it, it can be very disruptive. And I actually went through a depression
Mm.
after you would think, after I was awakened, I would be like, oh yeah, everything's great. I was back in the 3D. I was in the 5D or even beyond. And then I'm
Yeah.
back in the 3D, and I'm back having to work my, 3D
Ah,
job and commuting an hour to work every day. And
that
I was just
must
like,
have been really hard.
and
Yeah.
then you just feel like, gosh, I'm not aligned with these, patriarchal,
Yeah.
systems. And so I had a hard time at work. And afterwards I did manage to retire from my job, but it took a few years, but I
I was going
finally
to say, how long did it take you to transition to then getting into doing this, where you met my mother-in-law and started to like become like a professional and think that you could actually make a living and a business out of this?
Actually, I never went into it thinking I was going to make a business out of it. I actually
Okay.
just did it because, honestly, I started taking Akashic reading courses in 2014, 2015, and that's when I started doing, Akashic readings professionally. And at first I thought, oh, this is a fun hobby and make a little extra money, It's
Right,
just
right.
kind of, I just did a few local clients, which your mother-in-law was one of them. But, and then at the same time, I got invited to talk about my ET contact experience as part of an ET contactee panel in Denver. And so that was where people started finding out about me because they were just so enthralled with my story that they were just
Right,
like,
right.
you need to do a presentation for us. So I did presentations in Boulder and, Denver areas. And
Wow.
so people were starting to find out about me. So this thing got bigger than even me, because I was just like, well, I just want to do a few little readings here and there. And then it got to be where, people all around the world were finding out about me. And then I had, 3,500 people on my Akashic reading waiting list, and then I got invited to talk on Gaia and
Oh my
Gaia
goodness.
TV. So that actually, I was doing readings part-time up until about 2019. So this is like 2014 to 2019.
Okay.
And then in 2019, I finally decided, you know what? I'm just going to retire from my day job. I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
retiring. My guides were screaming at me to retire, so that's what I did. And then in 2020, that was when I had my first interview on Gaia TV on the Beyond Belief show with George Norrie.
Right.
And then if people didn't know about me then, they really found out about me, not being, egotistical, but it was
No,
just
no.
like
Yeah.
it just exploded,
Yeah.
and then it just kind of went from there. But as they say, the rest is history. But it was it was like this meteoric like path into my mission.
Yeah.
And it was almost like it was being orchestrated by my higher self or by something that's
Right.
even bigger than I am,
But where in that timeline didn't you have a second ET visit?
Yeah, that was actually in 2012 also. That was in December. So it was exactly, almost exactly 6 months after I had the first one. So
Okay.
the first one was in May, and then in December 2012, I had the second ET contact experience.
And was
Same
that way different?
starship, same starship, same beings. And then after that, that one was a little bit more personal. So it was a little bit more, I was interacting with Pleiadians in that encounter. So it
Oh,
wasn't so much the Arcturians, it was more the Pleiadians. And I knew who they were. I mean, I recognized them from the first visit. And
okay. Now, was
they
it
were,
a different message, or you're saying this was more personal to like your soul and evolution in your life?
no, it was just more like information about individuals in my life. Like they were
Ah,
talking about my father who had passed away and
right, right.
what happened to him. And they were talking about my cat Piglet, who was a registered therapy animal,
Oh,
and who she was truly, that she wasn't just a regular cat, that she was a Pleiadian soul that had
really?
chosen to, yeah, seriously, yeah.
So animal. Okay, so yeah, for all the animal lovers, explain that. Are
Oh
dogs the
yeah,
type?
we have
Dogs are more like.
contracts with the animals. Yeah,
Oh,
we have soul contracts with animals, and I'm seeing so I've done a lot of Akashic readings for people where people obviously will ask me about their pets, and more often than not, I'm seeing there's a contract there. And I'm saying, you and your pet have had past lives together, but not always, your pet wasn't always human. They were maybe an extraterrestrial being, or they were from some star system, or maybe they were an
they weren't
elemental.
always
So
an animal. They could have been different
yeah,
things.
yeah, can have been different things, yes. But
Wow.
they chose to be an animal in this lifetime because they didn't want to commit to an 80-year life or a 90-year life. They wanted to just stay around long enough to help you on your mission, so, or
Wow.
your path. And that's what happened with me and Piglet, my cat, Piglet was super adorable. She was a little what they call a blue sphinx. So she was a hairless sphinx.
Oh.
But she had this kind of bluish color,
Oh.
and she was adorable. She had big eyes that looked like the whole galaxy was in her eyes.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Uh, but yeah, she was a registered therapy animal through the American Humane Association, and she did therapy work with the American Red Cross and with the Library District in Colorado Springs, and with Alzheimer wards. I mean, she was freaking amazing. And she and I did that work together for 6 years. So we had to get
That's
certified to do
incredible.
it. Yeah. And so that brings in the whole concept of some of the animals that we might be part of our lives might also be a star seed or might also have connections, beyond planet Earth. So maybe they're just not like an ordinary pet. Now, I did do some readings where, I would just tell the person, oh, that's your pet. They're from Earth, but they're, there's no special, soul mission. But a lot of times with star seeds, we have such extraordinary soul contracts that even the ones we have with our pets may be also extraordinary. So for the animal lovers out there, that might be something you
Now,
might want to
now
explore.
this isn't just dogs and cats, right? Because like we have a bearded dragon named Goldie,
Mm-hmm.
and she literally, I don't know if you met her when you came here, but she literally will like almost turn when you call her name.
Mm-hmm.
She is just, she lights up. We got her from another family. They told us it was a boy. My son did the research,
Mm.
William, and was like, Dad, Goldie's not a boy because they had it Spike. Spike's not a boy, it's a girl. And then I said, okay, well, when she lights up and she's happy, she turns like bright yellow and gold.
Oh,
So
how cute.
we were like, well, let's call her Goldie Girl, Goldie.
Yeah.
She, I mean,
And as
she,
a starseed animal, that
she's
probably suits her better.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
She's amazing. Wow.
Oh, wow. And I
So
think when I did a reading for your wife, she had a reptilian guide. I mean, it was a benevolent reptilian
yeah,
guide.
she's
Yeah.
very connected. Yeah, and it's so funny because she's been replaying your reading a lot lately,
Yeah.
and she's been like fascinated and tapping in and like saying, wow, what Debbie was telling me. She was like, in terms of just being this galactic warrior and this warrior spirit, she's like, I've always been in some sort of confrontation or battle, and she's just like wondering, like, because she feels like she still deals with stuff here on Earth, right, and like
Yeah.
always battling. And I was like, oh yeah, that's your Sagittarius moon. But
Yeah, that would have something to do with it too, I think. But
well, yeah, it's pretty close to the galactic center and
yeah,
Neptune.
exactly.
So
It's
yeah, no, it
amazing.
explains that. But I wanted to ask you as we wrap up, like for me, I I am understanding that the birth chart is really a remembrance of your soul, what your
Hmm.
soul selected while you were like, looking at the big screen TV in heaven, or you're there with, source or God, and
Hmm.
you're kind of selecting these experiences and karmas that you want to learn, just like how you explain and how I understand that we select and choose our parents,
Hmm.
right? And so when I think about these newer souls, I see it with my kids, like 11 and younger. They call them the Alpha
Hmm.
generations with Neptune and Pisces. But then I'm thinking about the souls that are not here yet, that are going to be coming for the next 20 years after November 19th, right? When Pluto's in
Yeah.
Aquarius. What are you seeing in the galactic or the Akashic? Like who's coming, and are they coming here to take us to the finish line?
I would say I talked about this in another podcast, but I think that the beings that we're going to first be having contact with are the extraterrestrial beings that are closest logistically to planet Earth, or even closest to us genetically. So that would be beings like the Alpha Centaurians, the Hadarians, Venusians.
Mm,
So they're closer to us. They're a little bit closer to us in evolution, even though their evolution are narrowly speaking beyond us.
right, right.
But I feel like that would be probably easier for most people to deal with at first. And then we're going to start having contact with the Pleiadians and the Syrians and, these other groups that are also been heavily involved with Earth's evolution, but have chosen to take a step back and let us kind of take care of our own issues. But we are going to start seeing these beings from, these different star systems that are going to be helping us get to that finish line, as you call it, for the ascension process. And
Right.
so I'm very excited for that, because I think a lot of us have been waiting for that for,
A long time.
decades. Yeah, a long
Yes.
time. Yeah. So, um, and we do see trends, I think, a lot of times with I know I was kind of doing this study for a while, and I maybe had talked about this before, but there is correlations between star charts and people's star origins.
Okay. Yeah.
And
So share some of that research because that's fascinating.
yeah, and I'll spend the next few minutes doing that. So what we were finding is that we're seeing a trend where people that were born under certain sun signs were aligned with certain star systems. So just to give you an example, what we saw with Syrian star seeds, and this isn't across the board, but a lot of them were born under water signs because Sirius were water planets. They had
Mm,
water planets. So we're seeing, a lot of Scorpios or Pisces or Cancerians.
yeah.
With Pleiades, because the Pleiades is located in Taurus, we see a lot of Taurus, people that are connected with the Pleiades, but even Virgo and even to a certain extent Libra.
Mm,
So we saw a lot of Librans connected with the Pleiades, a lot of Virgo, and a lot of
Taurus.
Taurians. And then with the air signs, a lot of them are very aligned with either Andromeda Galaxy or Andromeda constellation. So a lot of
What's the
Libra.
difference between the two? I get confused and I just don't
I
know enough.
know, I know. It's everybody gets confused. So Andromeda Galaxy is a whole other galaxy. So it is outside of our galaxy. So it is its own galaxy and it's 2 million light years away.
Mm,
Now, Andromeda constellation is within the Milky Way. The
okay.
reason why Andromeda Galaxy is called Andromeda Galaxy is because from our vantage point on Earth, when we look at Andromeda Galaxy, it's located within, it looks like it's located within Andromeda constellation, but it's
Um,
actually much further out.
okay.
Andromeda constellation is a constellation. It's the 19th largest constellation in our night sky. And it is about 2,000 light years away from Earth. So it's still pretty far, but not quite as far as Andromeda galaxies,
Wow.
um, but yeah, I see a lot of air signs associated with those systems, particularly the Libra and Aquarius.
Okay.
And then Gemini, I see a lot of Geminis associated with Orion, and I don't know why that is, but I maybe because of the dualistic nature of that
Yeah.
sign and the dualistic nature of Orion, but uh, but I see a lot of Geminis that have had past life. Maybe their origination wasn't Orion, but they had a lot of past lives there.
Okay.
So. And actually, Donald Trump is a Gemini,
Yeah.
and he's definitely originated from Orion for when I looked at his Akashic records. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so he's kind of has that Orion connection. But yeah, we see these correlations with Arcturian star seeds. I see a lot of Cancer, Leo, and Scorpio with those signs.
Okay. And that's what you have with the Leo, right?
Leo, yeah. So, so I see like more Arcturian starseeds born during times when Arcturus is closest to Earth. So, and the same, I see actually quite a few Syrians too that might be born under Leo because Leo, the Lion's Gate is during the Leo time. And
Yeah.
Lionsgate is actually when Sirius is closest to planet Earth.
Right. Right.
So we can
End
see
of July into August. Yeah.
August exactly, so that's
Yeah.
when a lot of Leos are born. And so we do see those correlations, and we were actually even creating some charts, which I hope to share at some point. But
Okay. Well,
yeah,
when
that'd
you
be
have it,
fun.
I'll have you back on because
Yeah, we're
because
gonna
you
have
would
some
say that's my
charts.
jam. So
Yeah, no, it's going to be scientific, but yeah, we did this through, I would say, thousands of Akashic readings. So we're taking information
really. Now,
from
what
thousands.
about Aries and Sag? Have you or
Sag,
Capricorn?
I see a lot of Andromeda Galaxy with Sag. With
Okay.
Aries and Capricorn, they're kind of all over the place.
Okay.
Actually, with Aries and Pisces, sometimes I see Andromeda constellation, because Andromeda is located very close to those two signs. And
Right, right.
yeah, so sometimes I do see correlations with Andromeda and Aries, and Sagittarius with Aries, but not Leo for some reason. Like
Okay.
Leo's more serious than Arcturus. So that might be fun things for your listeners to chew on.
Yeah.
So they can explore that. And if they ever want to do like a galactic astrology reading, I know there are people that do that. I don't know if you do that personally, but
No, not yet. I get
yeah,
tempted, but I do. I've shared. I have a few that have come on my program, and I've shared with my audience. So, I know people that are really good at that. But let me ask you this, because you just sparked something. I think about something that's like a 0 degrees Gemini, Sedna, right? And that's
yeah,
connected
Sedna. Oh, that's
with.
one of my favorite asteroids. I love
Well,
Sedna.
okay. So talk about that, because I'm sensing. I don't know if you've heard some of these reports where
Yeah.
whales are like committing suicide, and sharks, great white sharks, are being eaten. And some people are like, oh, this could be something with Sedna or Leviathan, or what, like in terms of like alien beings that are maybe in the ocean, right? And
Hmm.
then, people talk about the firmament, that we're water above us, water below us. How does that kind of stuff all play in with the alien life forms and intergalactic beings in your mind?
That might be a whole other episode in itself. I don't know if I can answer that in
I
just
had to
a
go
couple
deep
of
the last minute,
sentences.
right? I know.
Yeah, but I would say as far as Sedna's influence, so Sedna is this asteroid that has a very long elliptical orbit. So
Right.
Sedna's been out from our solar system for thousands of years, but now her orbit is bringing her back towards Earth. And so
Right.
what Sedna represents the divine feminine grandmother energy. So this is the energy of of the wise grandmother that's coming back
Oh,
to the planet. So this is
that's
the
beautiful.
integration of the divine feminine. I don't know why these creatures are committing suicide or getting eaten, or I don't know what the correlation is with that. But Sedna is the goddess of the sea. She's the Inuit goddess of the sea. So it might be this reintegration of feminine energies, and these beings might be feeling like, okay, our time of patriarchal aggression is finished, and they're
Mm,
probably moving on to different dimensions. So
wow.
yeah, so we're going to see maybe the softer energy that's going to be integrating onto the planet,
Right, right.
with the influx of the Sedna energies. Yeah, I love the whole story of Sedna. She's actually she had a really sad story, as a human.
Mm.
And she fell overboard on a boat. Her father was trying to rescue her from her monster husband, and she ended up becoming the goddess of the sea. So it's kind of
Wow.
a story of empowerment for the divine feminine psyche. So we'll have to do some deep diving into Sedna.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
well, Jupiter is there kind of like hitting it,
yeah,
for this year with Jupiter and Gemini. So I kind of wondered about that. So this is I think this could be a beautiful year of the awakening
yeah. No, I
of the
think it's going to
divine
be
feminine in a
of the divine
powerful way.
feminine. Yeah, that's what. So I feel like, these other planets that you mentioned are very masculine planets,
Yes,
and Gemini is a considered to be a masculine sign.
yeah,
So it's the integration of this feminine energy into these very, I would say, traditionally masculine energy. So
yeah,
and it could also mean just Jupiter is all about expansion, so it's the
yes,
expansion of the divine feminine.
yeah. And the communication of it in Gemini,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's gonna
exactly.
be That's gonna be beautiful. Well, Debbie, like always, oh my gosh, this was amazing.
Oh, thank you, thank
You
you.
are
No,
so
I have so much
you
fun. You and I,
you are
we're
the
probably brother and sister in a past life, but I have
I
so much
you know,
fun
I
talking.
know, I know. It
Yeah,
just feels so familiar. And for me, it was wild because I didn't know anything about the Galactic, didn't know anything about the Akashic. I was just in my little astrology zone. And then it was like kind of instant. Once I heard about you through my mother-in-law and then kind of saw you, and then, she had gotten the reading for, my wife and my
Yeah.
oldest son. I was just like immediately like, who? What? Like it was kind of like it just everything was like a big yes to me
Hmm.
spiritually, you know what I mean? And so then,
Yeah.
and then here we are now. So it's just amazing. And share with the audience, because I know you're not necessarily doing the Akashic readings, you're just doing mainly the teaching now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So,
Well, share
so we
how
just
people
finished.
can
Yeah.
take
We
classes with
just.
you and learn from you.
Yeah. So we offer periodic webinars. So if you don't want to commit to an 8-week Akashic reading course, you can always take one of our little webinars. We offer those live, and then we record them afterwards. You can watch them afterwards if you missed the live. But so the next one we're going to offer is on starseed relationships. So these are twin flame and soulmate relationships. And how that starseed lineage interacts with all of that. So that's going to be a little bit different twist on this twin flames.
Right, right.
And then we just finished our 2024 cohort of the Galactic Akashic reading training. We
Okay.
won't be offering that again until early next year.
Okay.
So if you're interested in that course, do sign up on my website. We do have a waiting list.
Yes.
Yeah, and you can take it next year. And then we're going to be creating an advanced Akashic reading course on how to heal and clear old karmic patterns in the Akashic records.
Okay.
So we'll be developing that this summer. And then if you want to meet up with me personally or in person, unfortunately, Disclosure Fest, I just found out just a few minutes ago that it
Oh,
was canceled because of the
yeah.
fires.
And we pray for
And
everybody with those
we're
fires.
going to pray. Yeah, we need to
Yeah.
pray for all the people in the LA County that are being affected by those fires. But
Yeah.
that just got canceled. I was supposed to present there, but always going to, I'm also going to be presenting at the Starseed Conference in San Diego. That's the first weekend in July. And
Okay.
then the next weekend in July, I'll be in Connecticut for a spiritual retreat called the Stargate Crusaders. So if you're interested in kind of interacting with me and hanging out with me, do consider those events. And then I'll be back in Sedona in the fall. So,
Okay. And share your website and how they can find
yeah,
out.
absolutely. Yeah. So, probably the best way to follow what I do is on my website at debbiesolaris.com, DEBBIESOLAIRS. And also, I'm on Instagram, Debbie Solaris. I'm on YouTube, and I'm also on Facebook. So you can follow me on social media as well.
That's so great. And
Yeah,
and
thank you.
and a great
Yes.
follow. I love the amazing clips and just get these insights. And sometimes the terms, I'm like, I don't get it, but I'm so fascinated. And then, and then when I kind of slow myself down,
Yeah.
then it's like I can receive it. But I get so pulled in because now that I've, seen the different ships and stuff,
Mhm.
and I can't help but be curious,
No,
about the
no,
galactic
that's
and
your lineage too. So, I mean,
yeah,
you have that beautiful lineage, starseed
yeah,
lineage. So,
and Vega and
Vega and
uh,
Sirius and
yeah, and
Orion.
Orion, all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff. It's like
Orion.
wild.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, anyway, it's been great being back on.
Listen, you're always welcome, and next time we'll have to get more into that research when you have all the, the stuff, the nuts
So
and
all
bolts of.
the charts. Yeah, we'll get the
Oh, yes,
charts.
I'd
Yeah,
love to see that. But this has
yeah.
been great. And thank you for the audience. Make sure you go follow Debbie Solaris on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for watching episode 218 of my Knowledge is Love Astrology podcast. And make sure you like and share. People can learn from watching this episode. And maybe some of your friends who have not awakened yet, this could just spark something in them. So don't hesitate to share and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it. But again, Debbie, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
All
Thank you,
right.
everybody.